who was often referred to as Haydn's wife, which he didn't like very much. Well, today I want to tell you about an Italian composer by the name of Luigi Boccherini. Luigi was born in 1743 in a small town in Italy, a culturally rich town, but also his family was culturally rich. His father was a cellist and a bassist by profession, and all his siblings ended up either being musicians or dancers or some kind of artistic, expressive something. So it wasn't just something that he was accustomed to or somewhat that he heard. It was completely a part of how the family flowed, was through music. Very early on, his father started giving him cello lessons. Quickly, it became clear he wasn't just talented, he was extraordinary. And although his father was a very good musician and a wonderful teacher, he realized that his son was far outperforming him, and so he sent Luigi to Rome, where he got more formal lessons. As a teenager, he was already performing publicly as a virtuoso cellist, and audiences were astounded and amazed by his technical aptitude, but also he was just so good at phrasing, and things sounded so pretty when he played. He starts touring, so he doesn't just stay in Rome, and at one point he tours Vienna, and he becomes exposed to the music of none other than Joseph Haydn, whose music deeply influenced his own later on. He is traveling all over Europe, but not only is he performing, he's also composing, because while in Rome and he was studying cello, he also was taking classes in composition. Eventually he comes to Spain and he decides to settle there. There he entered the service of Infante Don Luis of Spain, which was the brother of the king. And there were some complications with this because this guy, although he was the brother of the king, he had married beneath his status, and so there was a falling out between him and the king. So now Luigi is in the court, so he has steady work, which is great, and so he has much more freedom to compose and experiment, but also because of this strained relationship between his boss and the king, he's not exposed to all the other courts. He's not on like the circuit. He's not going to Paris and to Vienna and all the other places, so it kind of restricts what he's doing, and it restricts him making connections. But again, he is employed, and so he's able to start experimenting, and he creates the string quintet. Now, the string quartet is 2 violins, viola, and a cello, but remember that Luigi himself is a cellist, and he's written many pieces for cello, so he added a cello. So now the string quintet, 2 violins, 1 viola, 2 cellos, and he wrote like 100 of them. And when you hear a Boccherini string quintet, you can tell it's him, because a lot of times a cello will have, in a string quartet, right, a cello will have a beautiful line here and there, but often the melody is mostly taken by the first and or second violin. But in his quintets, the cellos have many prominent lines and are very prominently displayed. While employed in Spain, not only does he write over 100 of these quintets, he also writes 12 cello concertos and 19 sonatas and numerous chamber works. His works are very intimate, they're very lovely, they have beautiful lines. His music pieces are not really about grandeur, they're more about refinement. Actually, he shared a lot of musical similarities with Joseph Haydn, and because of this famous French violinist at one point said, Haydn is the sun and Boccherini is the moon. And so this was kind of a put down, right? Because he was always going to be second, was always going to be a little like a dimmer version, which really isn't true if you listen to his light. Eventually, this turned into him being known as Haydn's wife, like the lesser than. And this stuck with him even after he was gone. And he loved Haydn, he loved the music of Haydn, but he didn't want to be compared, especially not in a diminutive kind of a way. In truth, if you listen, he actually really developed his own voice. It's much more delicate, it's more intimate, and it's way more expressive than Haydn's works. He was also very stubborn, and especially about his compositions, which it makes sense, right? You write something as a part of yourself. At one point in the royal court, he had written a piece as he was supposed to, and his patron did not like a certain passage and said, I like this, but I want you to change this one particular passage. Well, he wasn't going to have anybody, including his boss, tell him what to do. So when it got to that particular part, he doubled down and played it extra loud. Needless to say, this didn't go over very well, and he ended up losing his job, which was financially devastating. Living in Madrid, Spain for so long definitely influenced his music, and you can hear a lot of Spanish influences in his music, including parts of the fandango and Spanish rhythms. It is really fun to listen to. Well, after losing his position in Spain, he was able to find a few new patrons. One of them was Frederick William II of Prussia. He was a fellow, cello enthusiast. And the other was Lucien Bonaparte, the brother of Napoleon Bonaparte. I guess he was really employed by brothers of the greats. But despite these connections, his financial situation remained unstable. As he grew older, musical tastes shifted. They wanted bigger and grander, and he had this delicate, beautiful music that he wrote, and it just wasn't the thing anymore. And so he had a hard time selling it. His patrons kind of weren't as helpful anymore, and he really fell into poverty. He never stopped composing, but he just wasn't doing okay. And then in 1805, he died in Madrid, Spain. Complications of illness. He died poor and largely unrecognized. And this stayed. After his death, his works fell away, and nobody even really knew who Boccherini was for a long, long time. Until about 150 years later, in the 1950s, when there was a quintet, and they called themselves the Quintet Boccherini, and they started playing his stuff, and it is beautiful, and it started gaining attention, and people studying cello, they are now very, very familiar with his works because they are so beautiful. So today, he's recognized as one of the greatest cellist composers ever, and also a pioneer in chamber music in general. And this master of elegance and of nuance, and even like some musical storytelling. So if Haydn is the sun, bright, commanding, impossible to ignore, then perhaps Boccherini is the moon. Not weaker, just quieter. Not lesser, just more intimate. Absolutely beautiful and delicate and lovely to listen to. Go and listen to something by Luigi Boccherini.